What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Unknown Destination, the podcast about, well, we never know until the end. My name is Justin. That is Andrew, and we are back. How are you doing today, Andrew?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing exactly the same as I was 5 minutes ago when we recorded the last one.
Perfect.
Perfect. All right. So, as you guys know, the last podcast we recorded was a lot about the travel updates. This one is going to be less so because we just gave you all the updates. You don't want to hear the same thing every day.
Yeah, this is going to be more of the things that are probably just going forward for in the foreseeable future, not so much that policies and stuff that can be changing daily.
Right. So the first thing that I have just to jump right into this one is an article from Skift about what American Express is expecting to see this summer as far as travel. First of all, it's important to note that everything that I'm mentioning is from their CEO, Stephen Squeri. It's Squeri. And it was from a post earnings conference call that they had this past week. First of all, American Express amazingly only lost 15% off of its bottom line in 2020. So they definitely did the right thing in taking advantage of stimulus programs and things like that. But their expectation as to what is going to be happening in 2021 is a 9 to 10% jump in overall revenue in travel, with the majority of that, 70% of that, coming from a boost in leisure travel around July, August, and September. So American Express does say they actually expect to see a further decline in the corporate travel industry throughout this year, but they think the leisure travel was really going to make up for that. As of right now, they looks like they think that the rebound for corporate travel probably won't really be seen until early 2022.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty fair, just because of how big the boom in leisure is going to be. I feel once vaccines are kind of more available on a worldwide level, um, I think that it's really gonna if that all happens by early summer, maybe late April into May, if that's when the vaccines are kind of all rolled out worldwide, I would definitely see July, August as huge vacation travel times.
Same, yeah. I don't think it's much of a surprise that we'll see a lot of leisure travel. Even people that weren't traveling before have been stuck in the house, told they couldn't even go out to do things like eating out. So, a lot of
Mhm.
people are going to have that travel bug, and I expect it to happen as soon as a good majority of the population's vaccinated.
Yep, I would definitely agree with that. I think it's a pretty safe statement to say.
Yeah.
So I actually have something that might it doesn't directly correlate with that, but with getting people traveling again, IATA is developing a vaccination app slash COVID testing app. Um, so they're trying to make it so that this can be your third party app on your phone that you can use as your negative COVID test or vaccination approval kind of document so that you can travel easier, so that airlines can view that quickly. There was an article saying that with only flying at like 10% capacity, they're still having to have the same amount of gate agents and everybody working because of having to do all of these verifications. So IATA is obviously the Airline Trade Association. They're working with on a secure mobile phone based solution for this.
Okay.
And it has already been announced that Qatar Airways is going to be the first airline in the Middle East to trial their digital passport. So it's really interesting how it's working. They're kind of having it set up where uh, if you want to be, I think of kind of Tinder's verification where you have to take like a selfie. It's almost using the same technology as that. They're going to be doing it where you have to take a selfie and then you have to do a video of yourself like looking left to right. There's obviously more things that you have to do to make it your passport legit, but this would eliminate a lot of the paperwork and that kind of thing because you'd be able to transmit it directly to the airline. So they're not even
Huh.
checking passports at that point. You can just pull out your phone.
That's awesome. I think that's going to be a big deal, and I expected to see something like that because at this point everything is kind of done digitally, so it's a need, to be
Yep.
honest.
Yeah, and being able to upload your vaccination status for COVID, or even other vaccines, because a lot of places, if you want to travel to certain places, they still recommend certain vaccines if you're going to certain locations. So I think it's great if you can add all that information in there. It looks like it's going to be pretty straightforward. They're just going to have, as of right now, the trials just got like 4 buttons on it. It's just got a settings, it's got your health documents, it's got the actual passport information, and then pictures. So very,
Huh.
very easy to use. Obviously, this is not going to fully replace because there are the people that aren't going to have a smartphone or people that are disabled that can't, they wouldn't be able to access that kind of information. But it would
Sure.
definitely speed up the process.
It would. So going from that, I have two things that I could address right now, and one of them is kind of breaking news. So I'm
Okay.
going to go with that first. And this is just something in general that I know a lot of people are afraid of getting the COVID vaccine. And since we're talking about it,
Hmm.
my mother-in-law actually just sent me a Facebook message that she had her second dose yesterday, and she just actually had to call into work because she's feeling a bit feverish today. But for those of you that are worried about it, everybody I know that's had this vaccine and had a reaction like that, that's exactly what happens. You'll get a little bit feverish for the day,
Yep.
you'll kind of feel lethargic, and you'll feel fine the next day. I just wanted to address that since there was, kind of a one-on-one experience with the vaccine there.
Yeah, my mother got hers this week because she works with the schools, and it was like the same thing. She didn't have anything with the first dose, but they did say when it
Yeah,
comes to the follow-up dose to basically plan on just feeling a little bit off.
yeah.
So yeah, nothing to worry about really there at this point.
No. Okay, so let's jump into this other thing because this is actually app related, not so much
Okay.
COVID related. But this is mostly about a UK serviced apartment provider app called Stay. And what they've done is they've launched a corporate subscription program. So what you do is you pay a set monthly fee and you get to stay at that property as many times as you need to. These companies are popping up more and more places. This one was Stay. There's another one called Mint House that does a similar thing or is going to be doing a similar thing first quarter this year. But their goal is to kind of steal corporate travelers away from the hotels
Yep.
by offering a subscription program to where they can get this set rate and stay as many times as they need in a corporate apartment type setting. For those corporate travelers that stay places for longer periods of time, that's probably a huge benefit to have access to a full kitchen, a full apartment instead of just a hotel room. But uh, we're kind of seeing that trend become a thing in the corporate industry. I've heard some discussions among Airbnb and even hotel chains about doing a subscription service like this. And I think that may be something we see going forward in the corporate industry.
Yeah, I actually had read the same article about Stay, and just I found it really interesting because it's obviously it was really prevalent in the UK. That was kind of the main location for it, but I had kind of wondered why this wasn't really taking the world by storm as much as Airbnb did, because it's basically the same thing except for corporate travelers. And if you're one of those people that has to do those weekly trips, it just makes sense because it's going to save the company money from the sounds of it with these corporate subscriptions. And from what I saw, you don't even have to necessarily register it to a specific traveler if it's a corporate account. So if you say work for John Deere, you would have basically a room if you went there and said you were with John Deere. So it works. It's just like if you were using kind of like a ghost card or just a company card, and they just have it already set up for a monthly subscription.
Yeah,
Really, really good business model.
I would agree. Um, those are the two big things that I had that I found interesting. What else do you got?
Well, I had Air France and KLM. They just started offering corporates an option to cut travel emissions. So they're basically the people or the corporations that have these corporate contracts with Air France slash KLM. They're offering them a way to contribute to a to make annual contributions towards cutting CO2 emissions. So what they're doing is they're taking all the data that they have saying, well, with your corporation, you traveled X amount of miles, which they're converting into CO2 emissions. and they're saying if you want to contribute to eco responsibility, this is basically what is like a fair value. So I found this really interesting, just because I don't know how many companies are going to take the plunge into just giving money from their corporation to Air France, KLM to move towards sustainability. Just found it really interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how mainstream this is going to be because I don't. It's not like a charitable. It's not a charitable fund. It's just
Right.
them giving money to kind of offset their CO2 emissions.
I mean, I guess if you really need some sort of good PR moment, might be something to jump on board.
Yeah, I did actually. I was reading an article today that was also pretty interesting about vaccinations with COVID-19, obviously, um, kind of worldwide. A lot of countries that are really, really heavily rely on to the tourism industry are considering their tourism workers frontline workers. So they're getting vaccinated first in order to try to get tourism back, basically. Because obviously, if all their tour guides are getting sick, they can't be running their tours and they're not making that income. So the one that I saw, it was a country in East Africa that was putting them as frontline workers. It was a island country. I believe it's like Mauritius. I don't know.
I
It's
know where you're talking
Mauritius.
about.
It's I think it's Mauritius.
I
I think it's
never know how
Mauritius.
to say that place right.
Mauritius. I'm like 90% sure it's that. But they had came out and said that they were that was one of their top priorities was getting the tourism industry back on track. So they're vaccinating all those people as well as the other frontline workers. So I found that
Yeah,
interesting.
and as far as pronunciation, no offense to anybody in
In
that.
these places that we're butchering.
Yeah, we just can't say your. Let's see.
Mauritius.
There you go. You
Mauritius.
were
I
right. It's
was right.
Mauritius.
Yeah. I'm a genius.
I don't know about that.
The next couple things I had were actually having to do with cruises, which normally don't have too much information on. Viking, huge brand. If you've ever been on, it's kind of like the 5-star cruise of the cruise world, a Viking cruise. They just added a new ship to their Egyptian fleet. They Viking Aton. Aton? I don't know. I don't know. I've never heard of that Egyptian god, but it's going to be joining the rest of their current long ships for the Nile River cruise. So it's currently under construction. It's going to be debuting in late 2022. Apparently, they've had a huge response for people wanting more Egyptian cruises in the kind of the higher scale market. So
Wow.
it's called the Pharaohs and Pyramids itinerary, and new vessels joining the existing fleet, so they're not getting rid of any. It's going to include the identical sister ship, the Osiris, and the first owned and operated ship, the Ra, which I know both of those. That's why I assume the Aton is also an Egyptian god. I'm just not that familiar, I guess.
I would think the same thing.
So it's a top destination, and they're saying that they're still selling out. So that's why they're making this debut in late 2022.
Nice. So you have some positive cruise news, but it leads me into my negative cruise news.
Well, but before you go into your negative, I want to say how large these rooms are for people. Just because if you're not familiar with Viking cruises, with it being kind of a luxury type, they are small. They're long ships, so it's not like if you think of cruise, like you think Carnival, like these big, 17-story ships. It's not like that. There's 41 staterooms, so there's only 41 rooms on these ships. So they're very, very nice. All right, now you can depress us.
No, you brought up a good point. It's almost like their staterooms are almost similar to like a small studio apartment. They're very, very nice.
Like a higher end hotel room.
And generally they have like balconies attached to them, so you're able to go outside, but it's not like the balcony on the 17th floor of a giant ship. It's a balcony where you're really close to the water.
Yeah, like you're touching the water. They've got libraries on the ship. I mean, it's a very, very nice experience.
Okay, let's pop into my negative Disney cruise news here.
Oh, perfect.
And then we'll go on to a little more Disney news. It's something we don't address often, and we probably actually should, because Disney is very popular among a lot of people in a lot of places.
It's true.
But Disney Cruise Lines, as of now, have decided to cancel all sailings through April and select Disney Magic and Disney Wonder sailings in May. As of now, they're not sure if they will cancel the rest of their sailings in May. A lot of that is going to depend on the ability to get people vaccinated by that point.
Oh no, Minnie.
So, oh boy. So anticipate that those cruisings probably will be canceled in May as well. In addition to that, Disneyland Paris has pushed back their opening until late April at this point as well. No new word on when Disneyland is going to be opening here in California. And of course, Disney World in Florida already open.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I actually had another thing on cruises as well. Holland America Line. They've got their extended voyages. They just went on sale. So they put 3 of them up on their website for sale for the 2022-2023.
I don't know.
So these, if you're not familiar with an extended voyage, it's a cruise that's very long. So they range from 71 to 127 days. These cruises cover 6 continents, and they start from Fort Lauderdale, so Florida. 74-day cruise, South America and Antarctica. So these are starting to set sail January 3rd, 2023, for that particular cruise. And it looks like those are starting at like around 9,000 euros. So if you got some money burning in your pocket and really want to go on one of these extended cruises, they've got let's see, it looks like another 71-day Africa voyage. And that's it. That it looks like that's going to be the first one that's going to be departing. So that's late of 2022. So you're still looking at almost a full 2 years before these are going out. And that is very common for extended voyages. They had an around the world cruise a couple years ago that I was looking at, and that was basically sold out for almost 2 years. So if you're thinking about doing one of these, make sure you book sooner rather than later, because they do sell out very quickly. And most of them have some kind of payment plan. A lot of them don't expect you to pay $20,000 up front. It's more like you're paying up until you're going, and then you pay the balance. A lot of cruises do that, and as well as a lot of tour packages. And 3%, it looks like 3% off right now for the cruise fare. So they've got other specials like spending credits and prepaid gratuities. So something to look into if you guys are interested in cruising.
On top of that, I just want to mention in that situation, as well as a ton of airlines right now, double check and see if your reservation is refundable or changeable with no extra penalty. A lot of places that's still the case. So even if you book it now and then say COVID doesn't get under control or something happens, you're going to be able to get out of it. So it's a great time to be booking travel, because that's not something you can normally do.
Yeah, exactly. Really good point there. The last thing that I had for us today was, if anybody remembers what kind of sparked everyone hated United about 4 years ago, was the doctor who was drug off the plane,
Yes.
that ended up with a bloody nose, and he had to be carried out on a stretcher because United oversold the flight and they needed their crew to get to a certain location. So they tried to bump him when he was already in his seat. This has sparked something that a lot of people probably didn't know about. But they revised a certain airline policy that they put into effect, and this was on January 13th, and this is going to be going into effect April 21st. A ticketed passenger who boards an airplane cannot be involuntarily bumped from an overbooked flight. So once you are on the flight, you cannot be removed because of an overbooking. They can still remove you if you're being an asshole, but this is huge because of how frequent overbooking happens. It has been what airlines have been getting away with for years and years and years. This is enormous.
That is huge.
In addition to this, they also raised the maximum required compensation paid to passengers who are involuntarily bumped. So this is going to from $675 to $775. So an extra $100 for delays up to 2 hours, or 200% of the ticket price if it's less than that.
Wow.
and from $13.50 to $15.50 for longer delays, or 400% of the ticket price if it's less. And foreign carriers must abide by these rules as well. So this is huge.
That is insane news. For those of you that aren't as familiar with the airline industry, overbooking a flight is something that happens on basically 95% of every flight that you ever fly on. If they can oversell it, they will, because historically, people don't show up for the flight. The fact is, usually it doesn't become an issue because they can book an extra 10 passengers. 10 passengers won't show up. And it's surprisingly, that usually happens.
Yeah.
So for there to be a standard where that no longer happens, honestly, completely changes how the airline industry has been operating for the past, I don't know how many years. Forever?
Yeah. Yeah. No, literally forever. I think Southwest is one of the only airlines that does not overbook. They also added a couple other things into this new rule. So there used to be a maximum liability for if they lost, your luggage was stolen, damaged, delayed. It was $3,500. They raised that to $3,800. So a
Okay.
little bit more money for that as well if you end up getting stuck somewhere and your baggage doesn't show up. So keep that in mind. A lot of people don't realize that they are responsible for your bags. It's not, you don't have to necessarily have something in your credit card to to be protected.
No, and if you're if you're traveling and you're checking in bags, it's always smart to kind of have like an inventoried list of what you have in that bag. Obviously, clothes for the most part aren't going to be as big of a deal unless you have a piece in there that you may have paid more for, like an Armani suit. Seems like something Andrew would have in his bag.
Yeah,
Uh,
probably.
yeah, or a Rolex, which I don't recommend checking your Rolex, but if you did, you know, but whatever it may be, know the value of what's in there. So when you make that claim, you can actually say, I had this, and this. And don't abuse that. Don't say if you had an Armani suit if you don't, because then it's just going to send us back the other direction.
Yeah, a lot of kind of what brought this all to fruition was obviously him being dragged from that plane, but there was a statement that was testified before Congress, and it's a really well spoken. Is if a carrier operates a flight with 100 seats and they sell 103 tickets, that's a business decision. Now it's their problem to deal with those extra 3 tickets, not the passengers. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
why if you travel even semi-frequently, you'll hear we're taking volunteers to be bumped to the next flight because we're in an oversold situation. If you're interested, come to the desk for a voucher, those kind of things. I mean, I think I've heard it every time I've traveled in somewhere, maybe not my flight, but somewhere.
Now, since we're talking about that, and since this doesn't go into effect, and you said till April
April.
21st or something, if you get on a full flight that was overbooked, use it to your advantage. If you don't need to go there, negotiate with that gate agent. They will do whatever they can to get that seat free, and you may be able to get your entire ticket refunded, get a flight voucher for a future flight, get some food and drink, and get a hotel stay if you need to stay overnight. So,
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of things. The sky is kind of the limit with that. Obviously,
punny.
especially if they don't get any volunteers and maybe they need 3 or 4 and
Yeah.
they're getting none, you're probably going to get a lot more than what you paid. Like Justin's saying, your full ticket back plus a voucher more than likely.
Yep.
In this same token, just because this is probably some of the biggest news that we've had in a very long time, because this is 4 years in the making, basically, because that was 4 years ago when this happened to this doctor that was booked because of United's ignorance,
Yeah.
or pulled because of their ignorance, and this is so big because of what it means to the airlines. A lot of what they rely on is overbooking, because then when people don't show up, they're planning on a certain percentage of people not showing up to their flights. That's why they overbook. Um, they're going to have to be a lot more careful when it comes to overbooking, because they're going to be hit in their pockets a lot harder when they're having to bump somebody, especially if they've already been boarded. Because with under this new legislation, they can't, once you're on your flight, you can't be bumped unless you allow it.
Right.
So, um, yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes in the future, but we will see. We'll see if this stays in effect. This did obviously go into legislation during the Trump administration. It was a few days before the previous Department of Transportation resigned. So we'll see if anything changes before April, but I don't see it changing unless it's maybe just some verbiage or a dollar amount, something like that. But
Yeah, it's something minor.
yep. Yeah, and they're the new mask mandate that is going to be going into effect. Obviously, you're supposed to be wearing your mask, and airlines are enforcing mask mandates. However, on an airport level, it's kind of been a free for all from what I've seen. So with the new mask mandate, hopefully that also helps.
Yeah, I would say a lot of that just comes down to depending on, where you are and whatnot. So it's good to see that there's a federal thing there for all U.S. airports that's just across the board at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
That's everything that I had though for this
Yeah,
one.
I think that's all I have for this one as well. Nothing really standing out to me here. So, uh, the only other thing that we haven't done is something that apparently is not going to work for me yet again. We've been going so well, and things had been working so greatly, and then all of a sudden, it works again just fine for me because I filled all that time with me blabbering.
In a world where a single quote can inspire and drive the most stubborn of mules, Unknown Destination is here to deliver.
And this one's from the late, great St. Augustine. The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only a page.
Okay.
I like that one.
I like that one too. It makes a lot of sense too. I mean, every single one you've chosen makes sense, and it's not like it's very hard for these inspirational quotes to be interpreted. They're mostly pretty literal.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty literal.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us again on this Unknown Destination. If you liked what you heard, saw, whichever way you consume this content,
experienced,
like and subscribe. If you have any questions for us, use that link below to the Anchor page and leave us a voicemail. We can play those on the air, listen to them, and give you your answer. It's something that we haven't had anybody do yet, and it's something that I really look forward to being able to answer. So definitely go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we will see you guys next time.
All right, have a good one.